The transmission cut through the silence of Earth's orbital command center like a knife. Admiral Thorne gripped the edge of the holotape, knuckles white, as the alien diplomat's final words echoed through the chamber. "You have 72 hours to reconsider, humans. The Galactic Council's patience has reached its limit." With a flick of her wrist, the Admiral terminated the connection. The room erupted in heated debate as military and civilian leaders argued over humanity's next move. 3 months ago, we'd been invited to join the Galactic Council, a supposed honor extended to only the most civilized species. Now, we were on the brink of becoming their enemy. "They want our resources, not our friendship," Thorne declared, silencing the room. "The membership requirements are nothing but thinly veiled surrender terms." The Council's demands had been clear: dismantle 80% of Earth's defense systems, grant unregulated access to our solar system, and accept oversight committees on every human colony. In exchange, they offered technological scraps and empty promises of protection. Protection from what? They wouldn't say. When Earth's united government unanimously rejected these terms, the Council seemed genuinely shocked. Apparently, no species had ever declined membership before. Their diplomatic tone quickly shifted from welcoming to threatening. Commander Rivera, recently returned from a reconnaissance mission to the Council's headquarters, stepped forward with intelligence that confirmed their suspicions. "The Council isn't what it seems," she reported, activating a secure data projection. "These images were captured by our stealth drones." The hologram revealed vast mining operations on supposedly protected worlds, with species clearly working under duress. Worse, several recently joined civilizations had their home planets stripped of resources, their populations relocated to cramped habitation stations. "They're not diplomats," Rivera continued. "They're conquerors who've perfected the art of conquest without firing a shot. Until now, they've never needed to." Earth's defiance had thrown the Council into unprecedented chaos. Our intelligence suggested that several member species had begun questioning their overlords for the first time in millennia. Some were even secretly reaching out to humanity, offering alliance. "The Council's coming," Thorne said grimly. "And they're bringing more than harsh words this time." Long-range sensors were already detecting unusual activity at the edge of our solar system. Whatever was coming would arrive within days, not the weeks the Council had always required for transit before. They'd been hiding their true capabilities all along. As Earth prepared for the coming storm, an unexpected message arrived from an unknown source within Council space. The encryption was unlike anything humanity had seen before, but the meaning was clear enough. "You are not alone in your fight. When they strike, we will reveal ourselves. Be ready." The message included coordinates for a rendezvous point beyond Neptune's orbit. Someone, or something, wanted to meet. As humanity faced its greatest threat, we had to decide: trust this mysterious ally, or face the Galactic Council alone. Admiral Thorne stared at the star map, the countdown timer ticking relentlessly toward 0 hour. The fate of our species hung in the balance, and time was running out. Admiral Thorne called an emergency war council aboard the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. Representatives from every human colony joined via secure quantum channels. The massive viewscreen showed what little they knew of their enemy: sleek vessels with technology centuries beyond Earth's best efforts. 20 years ago, we were still fighting over borders on our own planet, Thorne reminded them. Now we stand together against something none of us could have imagined. The unification wars had nearly destroyed Earth, but from those ashes rose something unprecedented: true human unity. Our first colonies on Mars and Europa had been established not by individual nations, but by humanity as a whole. When we finally developed faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, we expanded quickly, establishing outposts across 7 nearby star systems. That's when the Council noticed us. Dr. Laurel West, Earth's foremost xenolinguist, stepped forward. "I've been analyzing communications from former Council worlds," she said, dark circles under her eyes betraying sleepless nights. There's a pattern to how they operate. They've been using this diplomatic approach for over 10,000 years. The holographic display shifted to show dozens of worlds, each with a similar trajectory: contact, membership, resource extraction, population decline. Each species believes they're making a fair trade, West continued. But look at these resource transfer records our intelligence operatives recovered. The numbers told a grim story, wealth flowing only one way, while member species slowly lost autonomy. What about this potential ally? Asked Governor Reyes of Mars Colony. It could be a trap. Commander Rivera shook her head. The message contained technical details about council ships, weaknesses our scans never detected. She brought up a schematic of what appeared to be a council dreadnought. If this information is accurate, their vessels have a critical vulnerability in their propulsion systems. And if it's false, challenged General Powell, head of Earth's Defense Forces. Then we're no worse off than we already are, Thorne replied grimly. The decision was made. The Defiant would lead a small scout force to the rendezvous coordinates, while Earth's fleet prepared for the coming confrontation. As they plotted their course, long-range sensors detected a new development. 3 more council ships had entered the solar system, positioning themselves strategically near Jupiter's moons. They're establishing a foothold, Rivera observed, surrounding us before the main assault. Before they could respond, Communications Officer Lieutenant Devi broke in. Admiral, we're receiving a broadcast. It's being transmitted to every receiver in the system, civilian channels included. The view screen flickered, revealing a being unlike any they'd encountered before. Its form seemed almost fluid, shifting subtly as it spoke. People of Earth, I am High Counselor Vexus. Your rejection of our generous offer is unprecedented and cannot stand. The Council has existed for 50 millennia. Civilizations rise and fall at our discretion. The being's eyes narrowed. However, we are not without mercy. Surrender now, and your species will be permitted to exist under our guidance. As the transmission ended, sensors detected massive energy signatures activating within the Council vessels. They weren't just positioning for attack. They were charging weapons. And then, without warning, one of the Council ships exploded in a blinding flash of light. The bridge of the Defiant erupted in chaos as tactical officers scrambled to understand what had just happened. The Council vessel hadn't been destroyed by human weapons. Something else had caused it to detonate from within. All stations, report, Thorne commanded, her voice cutting through the confusion. Lieutenant Devi's eyes widened as new data flooded her console. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the remaining Council ships. They appear to be fighting each other. The view screen confirmed it. One Council vessel was firing upon another, while a third maneuvered defensively. The impossible was happening before their eyes. Internal rebellion, Rivera suggested, her expression a mixture of hope and disbelief. Dr. West shook her head. Something else. Look at the weapon signatures. They're not consistent with Council technology we've observed before. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Pathfinder at the edge of the solar system, Captain Ishida was leading the advance team toward the mysterious rendezvous coordinates. The small stealth vessel carried Earth's best special operations team and a hand-picked crew of scientists. 10 minutes to destination, reported Navigator Wong. No sign of contact yet. Captain Ishida nodded tensely. Every instinct told her this mission could determine humanity's fate. The Pathfinder had been equipped with experimental quantum torpedoes, weapons that could, in theory, disrupt the advanced shielding of Council vessels. If this rendezvous proved to be a trap, they wouldn't go down without a fight. Back on Earth, tensions were mounting among the civilian population. News of the Council ultimatum had leaked despite government efforts to prevent panic. In New Singapore, the largest city on the planet with over 20 million inhabitants, massive crowds gathered in Unity Plaza. Defense Minister Okafor addressed the public from a heavily guarded platform. Citizens of Earth, we face a threat unlike any in human history. But remember this, we survived nuclear wars, climate collapse, and the unification conflict. We rebuilt our world and reached for the stars. We will not surrender to these bullies from beyond." The crowd roared their approval, but fear lingered beneath the show of unity. Military recruiters stationed around the plaza were overwhelmed with volunteers. In orbit around Jupiter, something remarkable was occurring within the damaged Council vessel. Sub-Commander Karival, a junior officer from a species that had been among the first to be welcomed into the Council 10,000 years ago, had made a decision that would forever alter galactic history. She had smuggled a quantum disruptor aboard and detonated it in the ship's main power core. "For my ancestors," she whispered as chaos erupted around her. Karival was not alone. Throughout the Council fleet, operatives from a dozen subjugated species had been waiting for this moment. The rebellion that humanity had unknowingly sparked was finally erupting. As Karival's compatriots fought to seize control of their vessel, she transmitted a tight beam message to Earth. "The hidden resistance stands with humanity. We've waited millennia for a species brave enough to say no." The message never reached its destination. High Counselor Vexus, aboard the flagship, detected the transmission and obliterated Karival's ship with a weapon of terrifying power, a stellar compressor that crushed matter to the density of a neutron star. Defiance spreads like a disease. Vexus hissed to his inner circle. "These humans must be eradicated completely, not merely subjugated." At that moment, Captain Ishida's Pathfinder reached the rendezvous coordinates near Neptune. What they found there defied explanation. A massive vessel unlike any they'd seen before, its hull composed of what appeared to be liquid metal constantly shifting form. "We're being hailed," announced Lieutenant Park, the communications officer. The view screen activated, revealing a being that looked eerily human, yet somehow ancient beyond comprehension. "I am the last of the precursors," it said simply, "and I'd waited a very long time for someone like you." Captain Ishida stood frozen on the bridge of the Pathfinder, the words of the precursor echoing in her mind. The being's statement hung in the air like a physical presence. "What do you mean by someone like us?" she finally asked, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. The precursor's expression shifted subtly. "A species that questions, that refuses to bow. The Council was our greatest mistake, created to foster cooperation, perverted into a tool of dominance after we departed this dimension." Navigator Wong whispered, "The Council talks about the precursors as mythical beings who ascended beyond the physical realm thousands of years ago." "Not mythical," the ancient being corrected, "and not entirely departed. We've been watching, waiting for the right moment to correct our error." The liquid metal hull of the precursor vessel rippled. "Humanity reminds us of ourselves before our ascension. Stubborn, innovative, deeply flawed yet profoundly hopeful." Thousands of kilometers away, Admiral Thorne received a heavily encrypted transmission from the Pathfinder. Her face paled as she absorbed Captain Ishida's report. "The precursors built the Council," she informed her officers. "And now they want our help to reform it." Commander Rivera's brow furrowed. "Help them how?" "We're barely holding our own against Council forces." Before Thorne could respond, Lieutenant Devi cut in urgently. "Admiral, massive hyperspace signatures detected. The Council's main fleet has arrived. Over 30 capital ships emerging at the edge of the system." The tactical display shifted to show a formation of vessels so vast it dwarfed Earth's entire defense force. At their center loomed a ship that defied comprehension, a construct the size of Earth's moon, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. "The Arbiter," Dr. West whispered, recognizing it from ancient texts discovered in ruins on Mars. "The Council's ultimate enforcement vessel. It's only deployed when they intend to make an example of a civilization." High Counselor Vexus stood on the command deck of the Arbiter, his fluid form now fully armored for war. Beside him, representatives from the 12 founding species of the Council watched impassively as targeting systems locked onto Earth's major population centers. "The humans have infected our ranks with rebellion," Vexus announced. "The hidden resistance has revealed itself on 17 Council worlds. We must cauterize this wound before it spreads further. One counselor, Morath of the Vex 10, dared to speak. Perhaps we should reconsider. If the humans have sparked such widespread. Vexus moved with terrifying speed, his form elongating as he impaled Morath through the chest. "Dissent is infection," he hissed as the counselor's body crumpled. Any other objections? The remaining counselors stood in silent fear. Back on Earth, Defense Minister Okafor watched as humanity's combined fleet moved into defensive positions. Every ship humanity possessed, from mining vessels retrofitted with weapon systems to the latest military cruisers, formed a desperate line between Earth and the approaching armada. "We won't survive a direct confrontation," General Powell stated bluntly during the emergency session. Okafor nodded grimly. "Which is why we're not fighting alone." She activated her secure terminal, revealing a startling update from Admiral Thorne. "The hidden resistance is more widespread than we realized. They're planning coordinated strikes from within Council vessels, and the precursors have offered an alliance." "Can we trust them?" asked Governor Rice. "Do we have a choice?" Okafor countered. Aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Ishida received new orders directly from Admiral Thorne. The precursor had provided coordinates to something called the Nexus Key, a control system buried within the Arbiter itself, supposedly capable of shutting down all Council technology simultaneously. "A suicide mission," Lieutenant Park said quietly. Captain Ishida studied the faces of her crew. "I need volunteers only. This mission." "We're all in, Captain," Navigator Wong interrupted, the rest of the crew nodding in agreement. For Earth. The precursor vessel began to transform, its liquid metal structure reconfiguring into a shape that could dock with the Pathfinder. "My vessel will shield you from their sensors," the ancient being explained. "But once inside the Arbiter, you will have precisely 18 minutes before the shielding fails." As preparations for the desperate mission continued, the Council fleet accelerated toward Earth. The Arbiter's main weapon, the Stellar Lance, began its charging sequence, a process that would take 30 minutes to complete. Once fully charged, it could shatter Earth's crust with a single shot. In orbit around Jupiter, the remaining rebel Council ships fought a desperate holding action, buying Earth precious time. The hidden resistance had managed to seize control of 4 vessels, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Admiral Thorne watched the tactical display with growing dread. The Pathfinder's mission was their only hope, but it meant sending good people on what was likely a one-way journey. "Pathfinder is away," Lieutenant Devi reported, her voice solemn. As Ishida's ship vanished into the starfield, cloaked by precursor technology, the unthinkable happened. The Arbiter suddenly changed course, accelerating not toward Earth, but directly toward the Pathfinder's last known position. "They know," Rivera whispered in horror. "Somehow, they know." "They know." Rivera's words hung in the air like a death sentence. But what happened next defied everyone's expectations. The Arbiter suddenly shuddered, massive explosions erupting across its hull from within. The Council flagship began listing to one side, its weapon systems powering down in rapid sequence. "What's happening?" Thorne demanded, leaning forward in her chair. Lieutenant Devi's fingers flew across her console. "The hidden resistance. Admiral, they've launched coordinated attacks throughout the Council fleet. They're sending us a message. For Curival." The sacrifice of the brave sub-commander had not been in vain. Her final transmission had reached resistance cells throughout the Council armada, triggering their long-planned uprising. Dozens of subjugated species, some who had endured Council rule for millennia, were finally fighting back. Meanwhile, aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Ishida and her crew seized their opportunity. With the Arbiter's internal defenses compromised by the rebellion, they navigated deep into the massive vessel, guided by the Precursor's ancient knowledge. There, the Precursor pointed to an unassuming doorway. "The Nexus chamber lies beyond." Inside, they found not advanced technology, but a simple crystalline structure, beautiful in its elegant simplicity. When Ishida touched it at the precursor's direction, a wave of energy pulsed outward, cascading through the Arbiter and beyond. Throughout the Council fleet, ships powered down as the ancient failsafe activated. The precursors had built a backdoor into their creation, one that could only be triggered by a species they deemed worthy. High Counselor Vexus, his form writhing in fury, faced Captain Ishida in the Nexus chamber. "You've destroyed 10,000 years of order," he raged. "We've ended 10,000 years of tyranny," Ishida corrected, standing tall despite her fear. What followed wasn't a battle but a reckoning. The precursor stepped forward, its form shifting to match Vexus. The Council was meant to unite, not conquer. "We will rebuild, not destroy." 3 months later, representatives from Earth stood in the newly reformed Galactic Council chamber. The 12 founding species had been removed from power, replaced by a coalition that included humans and former resistance members from across the galaxy. Admiral Thorne, now Earth's first galactic ambassador, faced the assembled delegates. "Humanity doesn't claim to be perfect. Our history is filled with wars, cruelty, and mistakes. But we've learned that true strength comes from facing our flaws honestly, not hiding them behind false perfection." The chamber erupted in applause as the new Galactic Charter was signed, a document that guaranteed autonomy and representation for all member worlds. Back on Earth, Captain Ishida, now a celebrated hero, stood at a memorial dedicated to those lost in what historians were already calling the Liberation War. She placed her hand on the stone bearing Karifal's name. "We remember," she whispered. Among the stars, the precursors watched as their greatest mistake was finally corrected. This new council would face challenges, make missteps, and sometimes falter. But it would do so honestly, openly, with the courage to admit when it was wrong. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all.